Welcome back to Hashtag Single with Jeanette Bonner. I am not a relationship expert or sex therapist. I'm just a regular New York City woman navigating the world as a single, independent feminist. Hashtag Single is about having honest conversations with other singles in today's device-obsessed culture. So I hope you'll join me on this interesting, challenging, and complex journey as we navigate the ins and outs of singledom. What's up? Welcome back to Hashtag Single. I'm Jeanette Bonner, your host. Really excited to hit you with our one-on-one episode for September. I have my good friend Jeane, who I've been trying to get on this podcast for 100 years. Jeane, thank you so much for being here with me.
Yes, I'm really nervous to be here, but excited to share.
I'm not going to put you in the hot seat for too long, I promise. No, I'm kidding you. You guys, and we just, this is a really special episode because Jeane has invited her friend Govin, and Govin is actually teleporting in from another country. He's actually calling in from Malaysia, which is like a full 12 hours ahead of us. So here we are. It's Friday night. We're doing a 10 p.m. recording, and Govin it's like he's having coffee. It's 10 a.m. there. So Govin, thank you so much for being here with us.
I think he's saying thank you as he's eating his cereal.
Govin, turn your mic. There you go.
Yes. Hi. Sorry. Yes. Amazing to virtually be in New York. That's very excited to be here, and I'm very excited to be part of this conversation, and very excited to listen.
Thank you. I feel like we just had like a solid quarantine moment. Like, your mic is muted is like going to be a punchline for the rest of the decade. You know what I mean?
Right.
Your mic is on. Your mic is off. But it's really cool. I'm really excited to get your perspective of dating in another country. I have no idea what dating in Malaysia is like. So that's going to be really cool when we check in with you later. So enjoy your cereal.
I will. Thank you.
I love that. Like, it's like Jeane and I are like, it's like Friday night. We have no social lives. We're drinking.
Cheers.
Yeah, exactly. Virtual cheers to you, girl. So if you guys, we're just apologies in advance. We're just, I feel, you know what I do feel like this is like, really? And this is sort of sad, but if I close my eyes, I can pretend that you and I are like at a real bar and like actually just like, like hanging out on a Friday night and like enjoying each other's company and bitching a little bit.
That's nice. At a 90s bar, right? Because that's my thing right now. I want to go to a bar that plays 90s grunge.
Ooh, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be whatever we want because it's not real, so.
What do you mean?
It's like a Zoom background. Like we could have, or like let's pretend we're at a 90s grunge bar right now. So killer. So you know how this starts? Where I sort of like get the lay of the land. I want to know where you're at in your single life and your single journey, and with dating and all that. Hit me up.
Wow. Yeah. I just got really anxious when you said that.
Really?
Yes.
Does it make you anxious to like talk about dating in general?
It doesn't. It doesn't. It just. I don't know. It's so weird. I think. I just suddenly was just so aware of how single I am.
Well, I mean, Jesus, you're in good company. Like, I have a freaking podcast about being single. So, like, you are welcome here. You are among
friends. This is not the marriage
podcast. I'm so single. I made a podcast about it. Like you cannot beat that. So,
all right. So here's my journey. So what's interesting is today is my 10th year anniversary in New York.
Of moving to New York City.
Yeah, moving to New York City.
I feel like there's some like beautiful metaphor in there.
Yeah, I think, and you know what's really cool too? And I didn't realize it till, I don't know, I think it was yesterday or something. Oh yeah, yesterday, because I booked a surfing lesson today as well in the afternoon, and it's very significant for me too because just a metaphor of surfing, right? Just letting go, You can't think about it. You just got to so-called ride the wave, yeah. Which is kind of not my journey here in New York. I overthought everything. And, but what was funny was that when I was in Singapore, I was dating someone, and we were going to get married. He was going to do film, I was going to do acting, and we were going to, move together to New York. And then clearly that didn't happen because I'm on this podcast. But I moved alone. And I was like, New York, that's the place I'm going to find love, And
little did you know, I want to be like, cut to.
I'm going to find my Mr. Big. I found a lot of big assholes, but not, I'm so sorry to all the people that I dated here.
Oh, girl, they are not listening to this podcast. Don't you can slam the hell out of them if you want to.
I apologize to those who will not be named. I feel bad. Anyway, and it was so funny. Like every year, I was like, I think this is the year. I'm getting older, and I feel like it's so weird. Like you feel like, you kind of have this thing in your mind where you're like, okay, bye. Well, when I turned 30, I was like, I'm gonna, this is the year, I think, and then 35, and I'm like, okay. We're like 5 years after 30 where I thought I would find someone, and it didn't happen. And it's just like every year I'm like, I'm so sure I'm going to find someone by 40 or whatever. And I've given up on, having that timeline.
Yes. Well, it's a funny thing, isn't it? And this has come up multiple times on the podcast. It's like, first of all, it's not our fault whatsoever. Like, know that we were socialized to believe that women will be, and I hate this phrase, but this is a real thing, like, be found by a certain age. And it's like, it sets up the expectation that your life sort of matures in marriage and having children. And that is just the story we've been told from a very young age. So it wars with your inner truth and your subconscious when you reach these milestones in age and you're like, it didn't happen yet. Shit. There's something wrong with me.
Right. Yeah.
And we all go through that. Like, I hit that at 35. I hit that at 38. I turned 40 this year too. And you have to readjust the story for yourself, because who the hell told us that we were going to get married by a certain age? Who the hell told us we were going to get married anyway?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And the more I question it, the more I think, like, wait a minute, do I even, like, want to be married? You know what? I never really thought that. It's just sort of like an assumption, like, of course you want to get married. That's what society told me I wanted.
Yeah.
What if I don't? What if I don't even know yet? It's impossible for me to answer because I don't have that person in my life. But anyway, all this is just to say that, like, that narrative that runs through your brain, we're all experiencing it, and it has been put there by, wait for it, the patriarchy. You knew it was going to come up. And it's a real thing that we're all grappling with.
Yeah.
So I want to go back a little bit. So you were born and raised in Singapore, yeah? Mm-hmm. And how old were you when you met the guy that you were going to move to New York with?
I was. Wait, when I met him, I was 26. But I think when we were going to move, 24? Oh, God. Okay, around that area. But I think when we were going to move, I think I was 26, yeah.
So you dated for 2 years together?
Yeah, 2 years, yeah. It was on and off. It was very tumultuous. So, I think it's no surprise that, it didn't happen.
So you both had this dream of moving to New York City together, and then he ultimately decided to stay in Singapore?
No, actually, no. It was kind of like weird because, not weird, because I always knew I wanted to pursue, something in the arts. And he only caught on to like pursuing film much later. And I was like, well, if you want to do film and I want to do acting, and we always wanted to, come to the U.S. because, what better place to go for arts, than England or, the U.S. or something. And I, really wanted to come here, thanks to fucking Hollywood. But I was like, why don't we just move to New York, you know? And he was totally excited about it. But during that time, my dad got sick. And he was diagnosed with 4th stage cancer. So I stayed in Singapore, and we stayed, but then the relationship didn't make it then, you know? So we broke up. And funnily enough, we actually went to the same art school in Singapore, and he did film and I did musical theater. Yeah.
Is he still in the industry? Do you know?
Yeah, he is. He's married now.
Good for him.
Yes. No, I am really happy. I love the guy. Like I've known him since I was 15.
Are you still in touch with him?
Yeah, kind of, like not, I mean, like when I go back to Singapore, I'll see him.
Yeah.
It's just because I've known him since I was 15. Like we grew up together, you know, we had the same clique. And
that's a sweet story.
I still chat with his mom, like WhatsApp, like not like phone. I know it's so weird. It is
weird. It's totally weird. I'm going to call you out on it. It's super weird.
But she's so nice though.
It's still weird. I love it. You're like, I just love that you're like, it's not weird. It's not weird at all. And I'm like, I don't know.
No, it's weird. Yeah,
no, that's cute. That's cute. I mean, obviously, if you've known someone since you were 15 years old, then their parent probably ends up being a little bit more of like a familial figure to you. So not as weird. Yeah.
Actually, no, I'm gonna like throw myself under the bus. I only met her when I was in my 20s. Like, I mean, when I was dating him.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to make that better. Okay.
No, I don't. It just is. It just is.
I'm sure there's tons of people that don't think that's weird, but I don't know.
No, it is weird. I'm like the first one to admit it. And by the way, to add salt to this, my mom and her are really close.
See, that's less weird. Because,
that's less weird.
Yeah,
okay.
you're like, well, I don't know. Did she become friends with her after you became friends with her? I love it. This topic is just hijacked the podcast. Is it weird to talk on WhatsApp with your ex's mom?
It is.
Check-in callers, yeah.
But I respect the distance. You know what I mean? Because I know it's weird, and I don't want to infringe on his new partner. Yeah, my mom got to know her better when I was dating him, but I think they got actually closer after we broke up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's better.
Is it?
I don't know. Let's move on.
Yes, thank you.
So that's great. So was that your only like serious relationship when you were in Singapore, or were there others?
Yeah. Actually, it was the only relation. Oh wait, so I was in Singapore till I was 16. Then I went to Australia. Right. Yeah, for about like 6 years, and I came back to Singapore. So I wasn't in Singapore for that long before I moved again to New York. But it is still the most serious relationship I've ever had.
I'm so curious how, now that you've lived in 3 different countries, like how does dating differ? I mean, obviously you were there at a different time in the world. So like in your 20s, we weren't really app dating yet.
Right.
It's hard to speak to that, but if anything, that would make everything more universal. Did you find any cultural differences between Singapore and Australia and the US?
I'm so sure there is. It's just that I'm very adaptable. So I think like I kind of adapt to that person's like vibe, and like not vibe, but I'm very open to different cultures. So I think it's not as obvious to me as if I were, some people just have to date within their community. I was just very, so I've dated, can sound like a world traveler of men. I've dated like a guy from Kiribati. I don't know if you've heard of that island. It's a very tiny island.
You found the one man on that island and you dated him?
They only had one phone on that island apparently, and this is a shitty story, but I had to break up with it. I had to break up with him because it's so bad. I went back to Singapore for because I usually go back to Singapore for a break, and I met a guy that I was really into. So I didn't want to cheat on him, so I wanted to break up with him, but I couldn't call him because he only had one phone on the island, so I emailed him.
Oh, I just picture like a line at the phone and you're like, hey, can I leave a message for so and so? Can you pass this? Like, so email is actually a little better, probably.
So bad. Yeah, I still feel bad about that. But you know what's so funny though? That guy that I dumped him for through email dumped me through email.
Oh, dude, that's how the world turns. You know what I mean?
I mean, I was being nice, you know? I mean, I didn't want to be a cheater.
I mean, at least you communicated. Now it's better than like what we get nowadays, which is just, I'm going to disappear on you and you'll figure out that I'm no longer interested.
Right.
Which is... Don't get me started.
Good luck, yeah.
No, the reason I ask you is just because, you know, there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of boundaries and challenges that come, I think, with dating in Asian countries and in Asian culture in general. Just in terms of like a history of arranged marriages and the expectations of dating within your community, I guess is the better word. So I was just curious if you felt a difference between Singapore and Australia and the shit show that is the United States.
Well, you know, the thing is, like, I've never, the only Singaporean guy I've dated was that guy that I spoke about. And he is also not typically Singaporean.
What is? Tell me what typically Singaporean is.
So I really okay. So I feel like guys generally are a little bit of mummy's boys. You know, they kind of like are not. They like their women demure.
Shit, girl. No wonder you had trouble. Yes.
Which is so me, you know, because I'm so sweet.
Yes.
You know,
and honestly, I hate to say it, but like a total stereotype of like Asian women and like dating in Asian cultures as well, that like Asian women will be that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's going away, but like for a long time that was like a very strong cultural stereotype.
I mean, like I used to play soccer with the boys, you know, I was pretty much like a little bit of a tomboy, and and just was not you know. And so I don't think they weren't attracted to me, and I wasn't attracted to them. I think they expected women to not challenge them as much. And again, like you said, I'm talking about during that time, right? Because I'm so sure things are so different right now back home. People are more woke now, right? But yeah, during that time, it was it wasn't. And that's why I never dated when I was in Singapore. I mean, there's only that one guy. And then in Australia, again, like I dated, my first boyfriend actually was Japanese.
In Australia?
From Japan.
Ah, interesting.
And he, I mean, I don't know if, again, like it could have been just specific to him. I don't know the culture, so I'm not saying this is about the culture, but I know that he definitely liked his women skinny, and I was not skinny. Still am not. And he was just like a bit of an asshole, I must say.
Oh,
you
God,
know, like,
I'm like cringing already. Please don't tell me he said shit to you about your weight.
No. Oh no, totes. Like, so we were. I remember he grabbed my thighs, right, and he squeezed them, and he said, "Oh, why are your thighs so big? Why are they not like the girls back home?" Like flames on the side of the face.
But then, like, what the hell is that shit? Like, why is he? Presumably, he's with you because he's attracted to you.
I'm assuming.
So he's only saying that. He's saying that to like get a rise out of you, or to make you angry, or to change you. That's so confusing to me.
You know, that is a very good question. I sometimes wonder if it's just like, and I hate making stereotypes, but I mean, perpetuating stereotypes. But sometimes I feel like particular Asian men feel that they have the right to say something because it's true, as in to them. And like, I'll give you an example. This is a guy. I mean, this is so weird. This guy, he liked me, right? Like, he was this is another guy. He's actually Malaysian, Govin, but Chinese Malaysian. And he pulled the hair on my arm, and he said, "Oh, why are you so hairy?"
I mean, of all the fucking things to pick at, the hair on your arms is nothing you can control.
And he liked me, you know what I mean? Like, I just, and this other guy who liked me as well, this is a Chinese guy from Hong Kong. And I'm so sorry I'm throwing these guys on the bus, but...
No, they deserved it. It sounds like they deserve it.
He was like, yeah, you know, your thighs are big because you know why? You used to play soccer. But this guy liked me, man. This guy grabbed my hand, put it on his heart, and said, "Jeane, can you feel my heart beating? It's beating so fast because I love you." Like
a little bit of a player, huh? Yeah.
But my thighs, you know, are big because I play soccer. So bit of a sweet talker this one.
Men are very confused. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you were destined for New York City, shall we say, from the very beginning. So you need those strong thighs so you can run up the subway stairs and catch the damn train.
Yes. I'll stop the doors from closing because my thighs are so fucking huge.
Damn right you will. That's, I mean, I think that it can be really challenging, just like all of the little tiny nuances that set up who we are, our culture, our parents, our environment, our country that we grow up in, what we watch on TV, how people speak to us, that we're attracted to, like all these little pieces line up your expectations of dating and of yourself. You know, they start to be this like really uncomfortable mirror, I think, of like, and women are really bad at this. We start to question ourselves, and so like, I wonder if they're right, or like, I wonder if I am single because I am picky, or I wonder if, you know, that relationship. I think this all the time. I had a really kind of what I can now call traumatic is a dramatic word, but like, let's just say it for fun. Sort of a traumatic situation. I made a one-woman show about it, so it's not news or a secret to anybody. Relationship that happened between 18 and 20, and for a very long time, I thought that relationship broke me, like messed me up to the point that guys would not like me. Like that was a truth that I had told myself, and that's who even told me to believe that in the first place. Like that's a really broken line of thinking. But I don't know. Do you have any experience with that? I know you mentioned briefly to me, you were talking about, or you were curious about how your parents' relationship influenced your perspective on dating.
Yeah. So that separate to what you just said, though, right? Because that's in relation to the guys you're dating.
No, I was just talking about how like all these little elements about how we grow up, like the people that are around us, the models, role models that we have, the country, the culture, the way people speak to us, they all sort of filter into creating, you know, these beautiful broken women in their 40s. Beautiful and broken at the same time. We are strong in our brokenness.
Yes. Amen.
But I was just thinking about like how that might have influenced how you perceive yourself as a single person, and also how you approach dating.
I mean, I don't know if it's so much dating. Yeah, no, the dating for sure. Yeah. Well, firstly, my parents had really bad communication, right? If he's mad, he would just blow up. So there wasn't this process of, hey, this is how I'm feeling, and this is, you know, so it bottles, and then he'll yell. And then my mom wouldn't really like respond to that, you know, and so there was no fight. There was no fighting in the house because it was always like, you know, this silence, right? The blow up and silence. And that really affected me in my relationships, like the way I handled my relationship. So I wouldn't know how to process my emotions. I wouldn't know how to express when I'm upset. So I shut down. And interestingly enough, not surprising, I was also then quite attracted to men that weren't very expressive, because I was comfortable with that, right? I mean, it wasn't great. I did not like that about my dad, you know, but And it's that sick kind of like connection to what you know, even though it's not something that you like but comfortable with. And then I would get very upset in these relationships. I'd be like, why aren't you expressing, and I'll try to get them to tell me how they feel, or and they just wouldn't. But then I was choosing these kind of guys as well. So it's like, and I don't think I was very aware of it till later on in life. When I say later on in life, I mean like, say, my later 20s, maybe even, later in my 20s. And in fact, like again, going back to that one guy, that I almost married, like he was actually the most expressive guy that I had dated since then. I'm not since then. I mean, as in when I dated him, he was the most expressive guy.
I don't think that's unusual, that that story. The idea that like you as you start to put together your ideas on what you're attracted to, start to use the traits that you have in your father, I guess, if you're straight. I don't really know how that works if you're not straight, but this is the theory, that and that you theoretically look to choose a partner or are attracted to a partner that has the same qualities that your father had. So, but I think there's some truth in that. Like, my dad is the kind of person who, he's like a Mr. Fix-It. Like, there is something, I literally, like, my radio broke once when I was a teenager, and I was like, most fathers would probably just buy someone a new one, and my dad was like, I'll fix it. Like, that was who he was in the house. And like, to this day, if I meet a guy and he's handy and he's good with his hands and he can fix stuff and he's willing to fix stuff, like, I find that extremely sexy. And it's not lost on me that I think that is a valuable trait, because not just my father, but like my family does that. Like, the guys in my family build things, so that's a real thing. I well, if you don't like this, we can always, take it out later. But I just want to read. You wrote this to me, and you said, you're like, shit. In an email, okay. You said, I think the thing I struggle with most is believing that I can have a healthy relationship. My parents' relationship screwed up my belief that I can find love.
Yes.
Do you still believe that?
I wrote this to you last week. So.
Were you drunk?
Well, okay. So put it this way: one of my biggest fears of when I do find someone and I really like them is that they would eventually lose interest. Because like what happened with my parents was, and it wasn't that my dad lost interest; it's that my dad shut down. And so stopped communicating with my mom pretty much, and and for a very long time too. So I was just in that environment of, it felt like I was living in a divorced home. That was how, I guess, bad it was, and so I always have this fear that the guy that I'm with would shut down, not communicate, because it's something out of my control, right? Because I know that at this point, I'm definitely more open with my emotions. I can process things, I analyze things. I'm very sensitive to, maybe sometimes too sensitive to things going around me. But I don't have control over that guy shutting down if he wanted to shut down. And I think that scares the shit out of me because, I can work on myself, but what if, you never know, right? Because you date somebody and everything might be great, and then suddenly they hit a point in their lives where maybe it's a sore spot for them, and then they don't know how to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it, and then they shut down, and you're like, that's it.
But I think all of us deal with that regardless of the role model you have of what your parents been through. I mean, certainly that influences a lot, but considering how many of our generation have divorced parents, I don't think it's not necessarily a truth that my parents were divorced, therefore I probably will end up divorced. But
right, yeah.
I think and I get this way too. I'm just sort of an over communicative, obviously, and I have an anxious attachment system, and when I'm constantly waiting for the bottom to drop out. Like, I'm one of those people that, like, if I haven't heard back from somebody in 3 days, if I haven't heard back in a week, like, something's wrong, it's over, he's done. And I'm dealing with that story, that limiting belief in my own life, because I'm finding, while that may be true for a lot of guys, it's a coping method. So just like, like I said, just sort of stop talking and she'll figure it out. I think it's just like women in general are hyper analytical. We know like more emotional than men, and also more communicative than men. And also just the way we've been socialized is to be more open with our feelings and talk about them. And, you know, Govin can speak to this in a second, but I really think the way that boys were socialized was that emotion is a weakness. And so instead of showing it, you just hold on to it. Like, silence is stronger than yelling. Silence is stronger than tears. It's like a composure that's expected. But so I think that's sort of, I have that fear is basically that what I'm trying to say. And I think a lot of women have that fear too, of just like, everything's going great until one day it's not. And you're like, what the fuck do I do? That's like a constant wheel in my head, because now I'm like, well, if I reach out, I'm over communicating again, and they'll push him away. You know, like I said, beautiful and broken. I do want to check in with Govin, just because I feel like that was a natural transition point, just to see what he thinks. But wait, before we do that, I really need to ask you about this story that you told me.
Oh, no.
No, I don't know this story. You were just like, I have a horror story for you. And it just says, double date with my mom and a dude's mom. What the hell?
Oh, my God. Yeah. Okay. So... Wow. Okay. So one day, so my mom's been telling me that she wants me to meet this industry person, right? And so.
Wait. Is this in New York?
No. This is in Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah. So she wants me to meet this person in industry, and it's kind of her way of getting me back home to Singapore as well. And so I'm like, all right, cool, let's do this. Now I'm getting ready to go for dinner, and I'm thinking that so she's brought this up like a while ago, right? So when I'm getting ready to go for dinner, the next week, I'm thinking I'm going to meet this industry person. And then she goes, that we got to leave now. If not, they will be waiting for us. So I was like, what do you mean by they? Like, I thought we were just meeting one person. And she was like, oh, and it turned out, oh man, I'm so mad at my mom, because this is not the first time she set me up, by the way. This is the third time with my mom, by the way.
Wait, she's been present at every single one?
Yeah, we can go through them if you want, and you can delete whatever you want to.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it was so sad. I'll just give you a quick summary. The first time, it was with a neighbor in my building, and she was a science teacher, and her son, oh God, and again it goes back to the whole mommy's boy thing. He was, oh my God, he was like, I don't know how much older he was, because I was young. I was like maybe 16 at that time, and maybe he was 17 or 18, but he like needed his mom to do everything for him. It was really, really unattractive. And then suddenly we're on this double date.
Who was the person, who was the double? Like, it's you and the kid, and then your mom, and then...
His mom, because that's the way my mom does it, right?
Oh my God, I thought your mom was on a date. And you were like a double date, you know what I mean?
Like my mom was on our date with her.
Yes.
Like, no, I think this is worse, right?
Yeah, because you just had like two chaperones, basically.
Yes. I mean, it was okay when I was 16, I guess. I mean, I was mad. When I was 16, I was really mad because I was really not into this guy. We went to Planet Hollywood, I remember that, and I did not have a good time because this boy was such a pussy. And then, so that's the first one. Second one, we went to this, this one, at least she wasn't in the same, we went to somebody's house, but luckily they had an outhouse. So I was in the outhouse with the guy.
Wait, not outhouse. Yes, please tell me you mean something else.
Sorry, not outhouse. An extra house, I guess.
Like a
right?
guest house, okay.
Guest house, thank you. Because outhouse is a bathroom, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
Like from the 19th century.
Yes. Sorry, English not my first language.
I was like, what are you doing in an outhouse?
The story's just getting weird.
Yes, continue. You're in the guest house.
Guest house, correct. Yeah. And that was a terrible, terrible day. Because I didn't want to be there, but he also didn't want to be there. But he made it very clear to me that he really didn't want to be there and that he only dated models and made me feel really shitty about myself.
Oh my God, what is with these men?
I don't know, man, because he was so weird. Like, he was just like, I date models. I was like, okay, cool. And he was like, yeah, supermodels. And I was like, oh, I know, dude. I was like, okay.
Not
like,
regular models, supermodels.
I know. Oh, man. And I wonder why I'm single. So obviously that didn't work out. And then, so the third date now I'm in my 30s. So I actually literally had, one in my teens, one in my 20s, and one in my 30s.
Every decade, she's like, I gotta help this girl out.
So I'm mad now because she knows those last 2 times I yelled at her. I was like, don't you ever do that to me again. But somehow it happened again. And so I get there and the guy's just sitting
what
there.
does she tell you? Is she like, hey, let's go get coffee, you and me? And then just is like, surprise!
No, it was dinner with her friend, but I thought it was the industry friend because she didn't tell me about this.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, so I was like, yeah, okay, we're gonna meet the industry friend, sure, you know. And then suddenly it was a them, and then suddenly it was this guy, and it's just awkward because now we're sitting at the same table.
So it was the guy that she wanted to set you up with? Was there someone else?
Yes, his mom. Because that's how they do, right? That's how my mom.
You got double chaperoned in your 30s.
And that wasn't the lowest point in my life, so you can only imagine how sad my life has been.
I mean, listen, like, I'm totally into like, hey, I know a friend, like, if, you know, but be open and honest about it. The whole, like, surprise, you're on a date, like, not okay. Like, if she was like, hey, I have this wonderful person, he's single, he's really intelligent, he works in your industry, would you like to meet him? I happen to be getting dinner with him tonight, and you can make a choice. But, like, this whole like, ambushing of, like telling you that you're doing something else, and then, like, you get there, and I just picture, like, your mom and his mom just sitting there, like, staring at you, like, waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, I was so angry. I was just like...
Anybody would be angry. That's infuriating. And it's infantilizing, too, because you're no longer 16. And you could be told the truth and make your own decision.
Yeah.
So there, Mom, if you're listening, that's Jeanette's idea.
I think she's listening because she just texted me, actually. So
how's the podcast going? Are you dating Govin yet? Govin, are you there?
Yes, I am.
There we go.
I am. Look, I thought I'd start, Jeanette, by basically saying a bit of history. So Malaya got its independence from the British in 1957. At that time, Singapore was still an outpost island on the south of the Malaysian border, or the Malayan border. And then in 1965, basically Singapore decided, you know, it was always a Malayan island, but the British did not want to give it up. And then Singapore, basically to achieve its independence, decided to be officially part of Malaya again. And then in 65, it became Malaysia. So Singapore was a part of Malaysia. And in 4 years, in 1969, Malaysia went, fuck this, get the fuck out. And Singapore became its own country. So the thing is, sorry, Jeane, but I think Singaporean guys are just a bit weird to begin with. It's the same reason why we kicked them out.
Because of their history?
That's like, and I'm really sorry that all your examples, or most of your examples, are with these idiots from Singapore.
I love that was set up by like a beautiful, and thank you for including that, but like this history lesson of the country, and you're like, oh, in conclusion, the guys are assholes there.
Yeah, it's just because Singaporean guys have no idea what they want. Well, they think they want supermodels. Not just any models, just supermodels, but they have no means or ways to achieve that, and then they just, anyway. So, and my mom's Singaporean, so and there's a reason why she married a Malaysian guy. So,
Well, my mom's Malaysian. She married a Singaporean guy.
Yeah, and see what happened.
Hey.
There's some shade being thrown around. Hashtag single.
Yeah, anyways, it was great listening in. Just a bit about myself, I guess. I'm obviously Malaysian, and I've lived. I live in Melbourne. I'm just in Kuala Lumpur at the moment because of COVID, and I'm kind of stuck. So, but I live between Melbourne and Kuala Lumpur, so I've kind of got a very similar sort of. And I've spent quite a lot of time in New York over the last few years. So, I've kind of got. Kind of a weird similarity in terms of places stayed with sort of Jeane. And culturally, things have a lot of differences. Dating is very different in this sort of three regions, but also, also quite similar. Like at the end of the day, it's just two people who want to hang out. So what do you guys want to know about?
Well, okay. The things we talked about, Jeane and we talked about how your parents' relationship might influence your expectations for dating growing up. And then just the differences potentially in dating in an Asian culture versus, let's just say, the U.S. And also just curious about if you feel that statement that I made was true about how men or boys are socialized, less now, but certainly when we were growing up, like socialized to that showing emotion as a weakness. I don't know. Any thoughts on any of those things?
The differences, I think, in dating culture, the major differences is essentially just the approach. Like deep down inside, at the end of the day, everybody just wants to kind of end up with someone they can kind of hang out with and, do stuff with, and if they can figure that out. But it's just approaches are very different. Like how you ask a girl out in Malaysia is very different to how you ask a girl out in Australia. And,
tell me, how do you ask a girl out in Malaysia? Tell me.
It's a very long process.
Give me the Cliff Notes.
All right. Well. So basically, I'll give you. This is what we used to do. It's a typical Malaysian guy thing to do. You go to a club on a Friday night, and you see this really good-looking girl across the sort of bar, and you kind of smile, and she sort of smiles at you, and you're like, yeah, and then you go home. And then next Friday, you come back to the club and you hope she's there again. And, and then, she's there and then there's the smile again. And then you walk up and you go, can I get you a drink? And then they go, yeah. And then you get the drink and, and you go, all right, yeah. And then you go home. And then the following weekend you come, she's not there. And you come back again and, oh, she's there again. And then you get the number. And then you do the coffee, and then like 3 months later, you go out for a movie.
Oh my God.
And so it's this really, sort of drawn out thing, and that's why it's really, and that's what guys do. And that's why, it's so very common for white guys to come to Asia and just pick up straight away, because they just go, straight away they go for the kill. And all these guys are going, how the fuck did that happen? It's just last Friday, like, fuck, it's only been 3 weeks. How did this white guy get in? And I think that's the same case in sort of Singapore. But the approach is sort of different. And, that's why, Malaysian guys are a lot, very shy, that sort of thing. And eventually, like when I was shit when I was in my, teens and in my 20s, But now the kind of slow, kind of not too forward approach, now it paved evidence. Like, no, he's, he's such a great talker. Why can't guys be like him? And so it's very different. It's different stages, different things. Like, and the idea of being forward has never really kind of been a Malaysian thing because, it's a bit gross, I think.
Is there app culture in Malaysia?
Yeah, and yes, of course, and and I guess so. I'm currently writing a play called The Failed Romances, and it's basically about all my tragic dating stories, but kind of glorious ways. But and so I'd never been on any apps before I started doing this project, and I thought, and there's this one period of time where I was going to be in 9 countries over the span of 3 months. And I thought, I'm going to get on every dating app and I'm going to have 3 simple rules in these apps across the platforms, right? And I thought the rules were very simple. I'd have 1 picture and 1 caption, and that was it. And I would not ask a girl for their phone number. I would not ask them out unless, they did either of those first. And if they asked me what I was on the app for, I'd say research. So that was my rules. Those were the ground rules, right? And in that span, I was in Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, Sydney, Adelaide, Melbourne, Copenhagen, London, Doha, New York, and Chicago, 10 cities. And it was all for work. And the differences on how people use these apps in the different cities were insane, like insanely different. Like, the questions I got asked in New York were very different to the questions I got asked in Malaysia. So for example, in Malaysia, every girl on the app basically has a caveat on her profile saying, I'm just looking for friendship. And you go like, what, really?
Okay.
But they put it there because of,
the stigma around being on a dating app.
Exactly. Everybody, and they do that. And in Singapore, where women outnumber men 4-1, people wanted to meet within the first 5 messages. Like, when can we meet? Because I don't want to waste my time. Because this is it's like a business thing. In New York, the 1 picture thing didn't work at all because it was like, I don't know this guy. This could be fake, whatever. Because they're much more.
We're cynical. We're cynical and skeptical. Yeah.
Exactly. And guess where? If you can guess, in all the 10 cities that I've mentioned, the place that I got the most amount of matches to the time I spent there, and I'll give you, I was there for 37 hours and I got 19 matches and like 10 invites for a drink. And I'll go through the cities again, right?
I was going to say, I don't remember where you were.
Yeah. So Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Singapore, Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, Australia, Copenhagen, Denmark, London, United Kingdom, Chicago, New York, and Doha in Qatar.
Denmark.
Nope.
I was going to say London.
Nope. Fucking Doha. In Qatar.
Fuck, yeah.
Doha in. So then this was like, because that's when I realized one thing, and this is something which a lot of people don't realize. Doha or any of those Arab countries, and this were, because there are lots of foreigners who live there, but it's a place where you live that nobody else knows who you are. So again, dating without stigma, people are just a lot more forward. Whereas a lot of the time, people have always gone, oh, what would people think if I go out with this guy? Or, what would people assume if I've seen hanging out with this person? Because, and especially in Asia, it's about saving face. It's about, you're given this idea of who you should date, can date, must date, should, and then if you like anybody before that, or that's not part of that makeup, it's kind of really, like you start thinking about what everybody else would think. And I think that's the biggest problem in sort of Asian cultures, because we actually really care what other people think, and that's the thing. And I was just going to say about the Japanese guy, Jeane. I mean, you never told me this story before, but I don't doubt the guy is attracted to you, but he's never been attracted, or he's never thought he'd like big thighs. So he's, like it's why I'm not supposed to like this, but I'm liking it. What's wrong? Why? It's like eating sushi, right? You go like, but this is raw, but why is it so good? I was told that you can't eat raw fish. Why? And just not knowing how to express yourself, because men are pretty simple. And to touch on the parent thing, I think it's really true in a sense that, and from a male perspective, I think, how men treat women is how their fathers have treated their mothers. And this is generalization, but I think that's the fact. And, and essentially, if the relationship was good and is still good, as in, then men start looking for that. Men start looking for women like their mother, because they went like, that's what a relationship is. You've seen this in all the kind of, sort of Italian mafia movies or whatever, like The Godfather, where that's the mother of my children.
I love that my reference is Freud and your reference is like Italian mafia movies.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. Because like, that's the mother of my. But it's true. Like that's the mother of my children. Because that idea of who I want. So. Like a girl can tell in 10 seconds if she wants to sleep with a guy or not. Like, if you're attracted, you go, yeah, I'd fuck him. A guy can tell in 10 seconds if he wants to marry a girl or not. Like a guy can go like, yeah, that girl looks like, yeah, that's someone I can marry. But we'll sleep with anyone. But so there is that thing where, like I think men, have this expectation of like what the perfect one is. The thing about men is we really don't know what we want, but we know what we don't want anymore. So as we get older, it's like like Sherlock Holmes, where it's this theory of deduction. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. And and it's the thing. And the biggest problem, or why we're seeing such a high rate of people breaking up or this, because nowadays I think the biggest problem with why people kind of, break up or this, it's because we're presented with options. Like every day you just go like, well, I like this person, but that person, and men are shit at options. Like no man has ever made a good decision at a buffet,
But wait, I have a really important question to ask you.
Sure.
Did your mom ever ambush you on a date and set you up with someone that you didn't realize you were being set up with?
No, but she tried, look, I'm an Indian, straight heterosexual Indian guy in my late 30s. I tried, everybody's setting me up all the time to, continue the family name and all this sort of nonsense, right? So, and let's talk about the patriarchy. But anyway, and the thing is, it's the women in my family that are so interested in me settling down or whatever not. But anyway, so this, there's a big sort of, so in classical Indian dance, Jeane might know this, the classical dance called the Bharatanatyam, where, it's predominantly women who do it. And the graduation ceremony, and traditionally in the old times, the graduation ceremony is when they invite the entire village or the town to come and see this beautiful girl dance and, pick her suitors or whatever you want to call. So technically, it's like a one giant TED talk for kind of picking a dude to get married. It's like, this is my thing, who wants to marry me, right? And so parents and the girls go for this, it's like ballet. So they go from, 5 or 6 right up until, and they graduate like when they're 25 or something. Depending on how fast they learn. So anyways, it's a big thing in the Indian community to go for these arangetrams, they call it. And when you go to these things and then you go like, yeah, oh my God, this girl is so pretty, she can dance, perfect wife. And my mom, whose friend basically told her, like, invite Govin for the arangetram. Like, I think him and this girl would get on really well. And, and my mom basically was like, oh, keep next Thursday night free. I'm taking you out. And I was like, oh, what's happening? I said, no, just no questions, just come. And this, I was like, I think in my late 20s. And in sort of my big fuck phase at that time, I was just like, yeah, I was just really enjoying sleeping with different people and, and kind of doing that sort of thing. And I was like, oh, okay, so sure. And so, my mom, we go and of course I go like, oh, why am I here? No, you're an artist. She's an artist. I think Then I realized halfway through the thing that, oh my God, this is what my mom's doing. My mom's whoring me out to this thing, and and of course at the end I did the good son thing. I met the auntie, I met the girl. Oh, amazing, whatever. It was very pleasant and this, and then she said, oh, she's going off to the UK to finish off her master's, but you guys should catch up. I said, oh, I'd love to catch up. And then she was, and to be honest, she was quite beautiful, and, she's quite, like I would have normally caught up with her without the, the charade or the big sort of fancy things. And then my mom said, okay, so make sure you call her. I said, okay. I said, I'm going to break it down. She said, oh, what? I said, I will call her. Then we'll go on 2 or 3 dates, and then I'll fuck her. I will have sex.
No, you did not say that to your mom.
I said that, and then I'll say I'll fuck her, and then I'll call, and then I won't call her, and then you have to deal with the fact that her mother is calling you, going, "What did your son do to my daughter? Oh, how can you do this? If you're okay with that, I'll call her. How? Cannot." From then on, my mom's never set me up with anyone.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Oh my God, I wish you could see my face right now.
Yeah, because not that I was going to do that, but I've just put the fear of God in her, because at the end of the day, she doesn't want to be the mom that everyone's going, your son is a predator. Your son, I can't believe your son did that to her daughter. Like, keep your son away. So my mom has just stopped. I've never been asked to go to any of these things again.
So in summary, Jeane, you just have to tell your mom that you're only going to go out with these guys so you could take them home and fuck them. And then it'll destroy her relationship with her friend or whatever. And we'll see what happens.
Okay. I'll do when I'm in my 40s, so we'll do that.
I'm giving you 4 years to tell your mom that. No. You guys, I feel like we could have this conversation. Like, if we were really at a bar, we would just stay there for 3 more hours and get drunker and drunker. But I feel like we have so much more to talk about, and we could talk about this forever, but I just want to kind of take this moment to thank you for everything that you've shared with me, your stories, your vulnerabilities, your history lessons, and really brought some enlightenment and illumination to this really interesting conversation I've never really had before. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, of course. This is really fun.
Here's what I want to do, because I can't reach out and I can't give you like an in-person hug. I want to close out this episode with some words that your strong self wrote to me, but I want to read them back to you as your future self so that you recognize the beauty in them. My whole life, I always thought I was too old. I recognize it's a mindset within me that needs to change. I'm focusing on loving and appreciating who I am, flaws and all. I did the best I could with the strength that I had, and I need to know that that's enough. And I feel like this pandemic has forced me to face these insecurities and unravel the unworthiness that lodged itself in me as a kid, when my mom used to say, "Don't go out into the sun or you'll get dark," or "Why can't you be like her?" Disclaimer to everybody listening, Jeane's mom has transformed a lot and she's not the same person anymore, so don't freak out. But you said this to me and I want to echo it back to you. I hope that this year, instead of seeing what you haven't accomplished, you recognize and give love to those struggles you overcame. The fear that you shot in the head and then went for it anyway, and your vulnerability to pursuing a career that is challenging for the soul and the heart. I think that is the biggest that we can ever hope for ourselves, to just continue to grow in the journey, to be gentle with ourselves, to forgive ourselves for not achieving what someone else told us that we would achieve. So I hope you hear the strength and the beauty and the wisdom in those words that you wrote.
Oh, thank you. I totally forgot that I wrote that. Yeah.
I figured as much. I was like, this is wonderful, and she probably just needs to hear it being said to her out loud. So I hope you take that with you.
Thank you. I will. Thank you.
Govin, thank you so much for being here, for saying yes to random podcasts across the world. So appreciate your yes and mentality.
It was such a pleasure, and hopefully whatever I said made a bit of sense.
I'm sure. No, I'm kidding. Of course it made sense. It was great. And it was great to have your opinion too. So thank you both so much. That's it for this episode of #Single, you guys. If you're on Instagram, Instagram and who isn't, let's be honest. We just started a new account at #SinglePod. We're sharing some old content for some of our most popular episodes and just some fun universal singleisms about this experience that we're all having in today's culture. So I hope we'll see you over there. That's it for today. We will catch you next time.